All right, I'm going to show how to use OnStep's Wi-Fi network. With the CG Pro kit that I provide, a Wi-Fi network is turned on by default that is broadcast out of the OnStep computer. This is a private Wi-Fi network, as in it is a network you can join that the only member of it is the OnStep mount. You can then join that Wi-Fi network and control the mount through that network. It's much like going to the coffee shop and joining a Wi-Fi network. The only thing on this Wi-Fi network is the OnStep computer. There are more advanced options of joining the OnStep computer to, say, your home network, where it would be just like any other computer on your home Wi-Fi network, and you'd be able to access that OnStep computer over your home network, just like you would any other computer on that network. So let's go join the OnStep Wi-Fi. It'll just be called OnStep, and we'll hit connect. If it asks for a password, the default password is just the word password, Password. So I have joined this previously, so it remembered the password. I'd have to do a forget. So it is connecting. And once connected to the OnStep Wi-Fi network, you'll be able to open a browser and enter HTTP, not HTTPS, and then the IP address is 192.168.0.1. So that is the IP address, the address of the OnStep computer that we're going to connect to. So if we hit this address, we're brought up with the website that is hosted on the computer. Currently, let's see, everything, it looks pretty in sync. The time, you can see one is the web browser time, one is the computer time. You want those to be the same. Your GPS position, current pointing targets. You can see as you go through these tabs, control, you have find home, home reset, park, stop. This is a very handy one, set time. So if we do that set time, it takes the date and time from the computer and makes it and uploads it to OnStep. Tracking on and off. If we wanted to enable tracking, right now it is off. The darker gray buttons are the ones that are actually enabled. Or no, sorry. Right now tracking is on because the dark gray button is the one that says on. So now it's off. So tracking on. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to confuse you. We have the basic direction buttons, a library. This is where I think I showed previously in the Smart Hand Controller. You can do some catalogs of your own coordinates and stuff. I do not know much about this. You will have to do some of your own research, as I probably won't be able to help you with this very much. I tend to use Planetarium software. I really don't use targets inside the Smart Hand Controller or this Smart Web Server, as it's called. Periodic error correction. You're able to play, stop, clear, and record. And the CG Pro does have periodic error correction if you want to use it. I have not had much success with it, to be honest. I found, if anything, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing photography, I would just stick with auto guiding with a guide camera, and you'll have the best results that way. Under settings, the maximum slew speed, so you can make this faster and slower. I tend to just leave it at 1x. I'm not in a big hurry. Full and refraction compensation, I would read the OnStep wiki to learn more about that. It's kind of like full is where it is spinning both RA and DEC in order to track an object. For my astrophotography and such, I just leave it on regular off and RA is the main one that's spinning, other than pulse guiding from programs like PhD. Setting the park with the CG Pro, I do not include a buzzer, so this button will not work. Meridian flips, you can configure that here. Config, do be careful around this area. I'll let you know. So the first area is your GPS and UTC time offset. That can be set automatically, but if you want to set it here, you can. Horizon overhead limits. This can be something if you start running into where the equipment hanging off of your mount, when you don't want to be able to go up to zenith because maybe something's hanging off your mount, a camera, a filter wheel, that will collide. You could reduce this. 90 is there is no overhead limit. You can go all the way up to zenith and go around zenith. If you wanted to have 20 degrees around zenith that you're not allowed to go, you would set that to 80. So we'll put that back to 90 and do an upload just to make sure. RA limits. This is meridian. I would read the manual and the instructions on this. Essentially, when it's 8 degrees past the meridian, this is where flips and meridian flips come into play. This will take more than just a video to kind of understand. I would just leave it as default for right now. And backlash I would not mess with. I have gotten nothing good out of trying to compensate for backlash. Backlash is backlash, and whatever's built into your mount, I would let PhD, if you're doing auto guiding, I would let it handle tracking and backlash compensation. When you start adding more backlash compensation through here, it just makes things muddier. Enable advanced configuration. I would not touch this. I have set this up for the CG Pro, and this is a way of overriding those settings. You can see when I enabled it, I got 2 new buttons. This is getting into kind of the guts of OnStep, and you can really mess things up here. Steps per worm rotation, this is for periodic error correction. Steps per degree, this is how many stepper steps the motor does per degree. So you can see 11,333 steps per degree. It's very, very fine-tuned as far as the motor and 1 degree of movement. Reversing the direction, that's all set up. Micro steps I won't get into. And then same with declination. But like I said, this stuff, if you know what you're doing, you can play with it. But in most users, I would not mess with that. Leave this always to be disabled. So you want it to look like this, where it's disabled. And now now the button says, okay, you want to enable it. You don't want to do that. Network. Network. The default password is, again, password. This is where if you get into computer networking and you know what you're doing, you can have your OnStep computer join your home Wi-Fi network. By default, it starts up in the access point mode, and this is where what we have done is joined the OnStep Wi-Fi network. And you can see the IP address of OnStep is this 192.168.0.1, exactly what we connected to up here. So if you know what you're doing, you can try joining, and that's how I run my OnStep computer, is I join it to my home network. It's within Wi-Fi reach that I'm able to put the OnStep computer on my Wi-Fi network and be able to control it from any computer in my home. So something to think about. So that's a good basic overview of everything that's available in the Smart Web Server. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm trying to think, did I miss anything? Probably did. But these are the general buttons. If you want to do find home, you'll use the home switches. Reset home is to reset home to the current coordinates. With the CG Pro, you have home switches, so you will not be using this. You will be using the home switches to define where home is. Setting date and time, very, very handy. Stop, park, setting park position. I think setting park position was over here in settings. Yeah, set park. So if the position right now is where you want it to be the park position, you would hit set park here, and then you'd be able to use your unpark and park. Alignment, I haven't found much use through the Smart Web Server. I think this needs to be used in conjunction with Planetarium software, and I would prefer doing this either with a smart hand controller or with the Android application, because essentially you need to read the manual in order to understand how to use this, and I really don't use it, this particular alignment through the Smart Web Server. There's either the speeds of guiding, so very fast, fast, fine, and centering. So I'm gonna say that's about it. Read up the manual, go hit the OnStep wiki, and that's a basic overview of how to connect to the Smart Web Server. So